Welcome to another edition of Bible Time. This is now 2 days after our national election. Do we know yet who has won? Well, whether or not we do, one thing we do know for sure is that God's plan is being executed flawlessly. It always has been, and it always will be. And the example that we're looking at here is the book of Nehemiah. We're looking at Nehemiah chapter 6. And what we've seen is that God had worked through even pagan rulers to declare that the people of Israel could return to Jerusalem and rebuild their city. And that's what Nehemiah is doing. They're reconstructing the wall around the city for obvious reasons. In those days, you would want a strong wall around your city. And in chapter 2, verse 20, Nehemiah had told the people that the God of heaven will give us success. He will cause us to prosper. And what we're seeing here in chapter 6 is another example of that happening. We're seeing more evidence of God prospering them. And this is done in the face of constant opposition. In the first 4 verses, you see Nehemiah consistently resisting a suspicious invitation by Sanballat and Tobiah to come and meet with him. And he doesn't bite. He doesn't go for it. He sees it for what it is. And he's not going to give in because he's absolutely focused on what God has given him to do. And he says, I am doing a great work. I can't stop this great work to go meet with you guys. So he was totally focused on God's purpose. Well, so that didn't work. So chapter 6, verses 5 through 9, now they bring public charges against Nehemiah, a bunch of made-up charges against him. And that's to try to frighten the people and frighten Nehemiah as well. And so he's a man of integrity. He knows these things are not true. He's a man of conviction and discernment. He sees what's going on. And verse 9 says, oh God, strengthen my hands. And if you have a little footnote there, you might notice that the "oh God" is not there in Hebrews, in the Hebrew original writing of the book. And so probably the better translation would be that he carried on with greater determination. Here's a man of integrity, a man who's focused, a man who has discernment and conviction, and he knows what he needs to do, and he's going to do it. He's not going to allow these guys who are opposed to what he's doing get him off course any which way that they try to. Well, now there's another effort that's made, verses 10 through 14, through this Shemaiah, who apparently is a priest because he has access to the temple, and apparently he's a prophet too, but he's a false prophet, paid off. He's a paid false prophet, paid off by the enemies of Nehemiah. He's not sent by God. I mean, Nehemiah can tell this man was not sent by God. And again, you see his discernment, you see his conviction, and he says, I'm not... The guy is trying to get him to go and hide in the temple, and he's saying, I'm not running away from anything. This is what God has called me to do. I'm going to do it and trust him, and I'm not going to go against God by entering the temple. That's not for me. I'm not a priest. I shouldn't be doing that. So we see the qualities of this man Nehemiah as he's committed to the purposes of God. That's what makes him a real leader. As he works with integrity, he's focused, he's got conviction, he's got discernment. His view is like a laser beam on what the Lord has given him to do. He saw behind this plot, and in verse 14 he sums it up with, remember Tobiah and Sanballat, oh my God, according to these things that they did, and also the prophetess Noadiah and the rest of the prophets who wanted to make me afraid. He wasn't going to be afraid because he was serving God, and he was committed to serving God in that way. So the ultimate proof that God would give them success is seen in verse 15, where they completed this wall all the way around the city in 52 days. That's an amazing feat no matter how you look at it. And you could see that it was done both by the hard work of the people and the good leadership of Nehemiah, but also by the favor of the Lord. It says it was finished in 52 days. In verse 16, when all our enemies heard of it, all the nations around us were afraid and fell greatly in their own esteem, for they perceived, even the enemies perceive, that this work had been accomplished with the help of our God. Even the enemies recognize that God has done this. And the amazing thing is that this great project, completed in such an amazingly fast amount of time, was done in the midst of constant opposition. And it's because you had a leader who was focused, and you had people who were of a mind to work, and you had God's favor on all of it. And that is so important for us. I mean, if we're going to apply this in our own lives, if we're going to understand it then, and we're going to draw out some timeless principles, then we see that the church, we need to be focused on the work that God has given us to do, which He's clearly laid out for us in the New Testament. We need to be focused on that and not be drawn away in any way by all the opposition that's coming our way. And we can see things done if the leaders will lead with conviction and integrity, and the people will have a mind to work, because God's favor is on His church. God's favor is on His plans. God is committed to doing what He has said He will do. Now that, my friends, is an amazing thing. And there have been times when I have seen that happen, when the church has all come together and worked in a focused way, and we've seen the Lord do amazing things in an amazing short period of time. But I've also seen things done on what we call church time, where we don't really have a mind to work, and the leaders aren't leading with conviction, and things just aren't getting done, or they take a long time to get done. This is a valuable lesson that we can learn as we see how God works in the lives of people, and how He can work through people to accomplish great things. I trust that you want to be one of those kind of people, and I trust that we will see God at work in such a way in our church and in our lives that the only way even our opponents can understand it is, well, God must have done this. So let's keep trusting Him. Who knows when this election is going to be settled, but let's keep trusting the Lord and being committed to His purposes, which aren't influenced by the political climate around us. We're so thankful that we can trust in Him, and we'll see you tomorrow for more Bible Time.